Well, hello. Welcome to the Client Catching Podcast. Got just me today, no guest, but I wanted to jump on today really quickly because I thought it's quite important to give a bit of an insight into what's been going on at the Think Like a Fish headquarters, so that maybe you can also take some learnings from what's been going on over the last, well, really, what is it now, 6 months that this COVID situation's been going on and how it's affected people. And obviously, at time of recording, we are kind of coming out of it and things are opening up and all the rest of it, but it has not been without leaving its mark on a lot of people, a lot of businesses for various reasons. And I guess for me, maybe the best thing to start this with is really asking a question, and that is, what would you do if you could only work for 3 hours a day? Now, I ask that question because that's been pretty much my reality for the last 6 months. Now, I say that because I run my business and my wife is also self-employed. She's a graphic designer. So we also have two kids under the age of 4. So we've got my eldest daughter, who is just over 4 now, or 4.5, and my youngest, who is 18 months. And when all this all kicked off, it basically meant that all of the childcare that we had available had just disappeared all overnight, and we basically had to split the days between us. So it essentially meant I had to ask myself that very question: how am I going to continue running this business in just 3 hours a day? And my wife had to effectively do the same. And it's not been easy, if I'm honest. I thought I had things pretty well dialed in terms of how I was operating the business, how I was working with clients and all the rest of it. But suddenly you throw something like that into the mix, and it really does expose things, quite a lot. And it forces you to really look at things in a different way. And I think once all of the dust settled, right, when the initial shock wore off and we were able to sort of sit down and I was able to get a little bit of time, which has been the absolute premium commodity. I mean, it always is, isn't it? Time before this whole thing kicked off, but pretty much universally, most business owners, most people I talk to, they always say that they never feel like they have enough time. There's not enough hours in the day, right? This situation has just, for me anyway, it's amplified that. It's been the most precious thing, not just for working on the business. I mean, it's been great because there's been time with the kids, which has been great. Not also without some of its challenges, spending all of that time indoors, trying to keep them occupied. It's not been easy. I mean, I don't find that easy, but we've had to sort of figure out ways of doing it. But sort of bringing this back to business after the times of figuring things out a little bit and sitting down, I sort of realized that it's important to work on some key things in a business. And I want to be able to share this so that maybe you can take some learnings from this and maybe consider whether or not this is something you did or something that you could do. And I guess the first thing that I've needed to really take a look at is essentially what the offer is, and then how that is delivered. Because the way that I had traditionally been delivering services and my sort of journey in this, it's gone from many different things, from pure sort of at the very beginning, not really having an honest clue what the hell I was doing, if I'm honest. And, it'd be sort of project work and, big sort of 6-month engagements with clients to do strategy and build the plans and all the rest of it. Changing into things like actual done for you work, where we would build the systems, and that was the key part. It was essentially an agency, and have a full sort of team behind doing all of that. And then getting to a point where I realized that wasn't the thing that really brought me to life, and I felt that I could give the most value to shifting to the more of a consulting model. So it was actually sort of providing them the frameworks and the methodologies to actually help people implement. And I was doing that very much one-on-one because that was where I got my most pleasure from. I really like going deep in with clients. I've sort of found that there is something in there that, even though it's not necessarily the done for you stuff, and it's not it basically got to a point where if I had, 1-2 calls with clients, that was my entire day, and that left nothing else. So it got to a point where, certainly at the beginning, it wasn't necessarily easy to both do the work for clients, and also then actively be prospecting and bringing in new business. But to be honest with you, I was a little bit fearful of doing that piece, the outreach and all the rest of it. And I stopped a lot of it because I was actually scared that I couldn't fulfill. So I stopped. And, I've seen that has sort of had an impact. And that when I'm talking that, it's the active outreach process. It's the prospecting and stuff like that. I've still got other things that were bringing in inquiries and business and all of that thing. But it was just that sort of mindset piece of like, well, I can't go out there because I don't feel confident that I could deliver at the level that I'm used to delivering. So I spent some time thinking, right, okay, is there something else I can do? What else can I do? So I've got some things in the pipeline now that, I think are going to both serve my clients better, but also allow me to do it in a much more leveraged way. And it's kind of a bit of a hybrid between my two extreme models. So a bit of done for you in there, and some of the consulting side of things, but also doing things in a bit more of a leveraged way, because that's one of the key things that I've got to with this thinking process and during this time, is that leverage of your time and your resources is vital if you want to get everything done. So that's one of the things. It's just looking at like, what is it that you do? How can you deliver it in a more leveraged way? And maybe over the time you'll want to go and see what some of those sort of changes have been, and you can do that by going to thinklikeafish.co.uk. But it's not really to say exactly what those is. It's just sort of thinking, right, looking at where you are now and thinking, right, okay, how am I going to do all of the work that I need to get done? Or how am I going to serve my clients in a highly valuable way and actually get the work done, but also allow enough time to continually bring in new business? So it's just sort of looking at what the offer is, how you deliver it. So that's kind of the first thing that I've got to in terms of thinking about things differently. And the second one, it's really been about thinking, right, what are the assets that are there in the business? And when I refer to assets, what I mean is, what are the things, the systems, the processes that are repeatable and sort of, again, leverage your time? What are those in the business? And do I have enough of them? Are they the right assets? And am I using them effectively? And I had to honestly answer that for myself and say no. And this is coming from someone who has built systems and done a lot of this and has many things out there and all the rest of it. And that's part of the problem. I had too much. When I talk about assets is anything that you can use to leverage getting your message out in front of people so basically when you don't actually have to deliver it, right? This podcast, or if you're watching the video version, this video is an example of an asset, right? It is me doing this once. I'm not sitting down with you personally and having this conversation, talking to you in this way. So it will be able to go out to multiple ways and multiple places, and many people will be able to hear it long into the future. So that is leveraging that time. So that is sort of one of the things. So like, what are the assets? So the podcast has been great. That's been one of the reasons why I've been able to keep business coming in, having conversations and sort of having people come to me saying, oh, I've heard the podcast and I want to have a conversation. That's been a big thing. And that asset has been built over nearly 2 years now. So that's not like something that I've just sort of, thrown up in the middle of this. It's been something that has been a very, very valuable asset. But as I've said on other episodes of the podcast or in other places, it didn't happen overnight. It had to build up and it's still building up and all the rest of it. So, it's thinking about those. And when it comes to things like assets, I've actually stepped back and had to think, right, strategically, what type of assets do I want to create? What kind of assets do I want to have going out? And I've actually, in the process, also created a new asset, which I'm going to be using as one of my primary assets to generate interest, or at least the attention of my ideal client, so that they can then find out a lot more about me, about what we do here, and hopefully take the next step to see about working together. Now, I've done this in a bit of a different way. What started as essentially a bit of an article or a blog post morphed into a guide, and effectively I accidentally ended up writing a book. Now, you might have heard that in the introduction about the book, Conversational Relationship Marketing Book. It's an asset that I am going to be able to use now in multiple different ways. And it has been created now, completely honestly, at the beginning, it wasn't strategic. But I then started thinking, right, what can I do with this? How can I do this different? How can I use this different? So if you go and get the book, you'll see that it is literally my entire strategy, the process, the systems, the templates, the frameworks, everything that I do with clients to help them generate their own clients and do it in a repeatable way. I am basically giving that away. And the thinking behind that is I want to be able to show people how to do something. I want them to see what's involved. And I also want them to be able to go off and do it, because I know I can't help everyone. It's impossible. Like, I know that because of, as I say, even by adding different fulfillment methods and offers and all the rest of it, I know I cannot help everyone. It's just not possible. But I would rather, especially after all this that's been going on, I would rather just one person got hold of that and then did something with it and it actually changed the business, because I know it can when people actually implement it. So that's kind of why I've done it. There are points in there that go to a number of my other assets in the ecosystem, the growth accelerator ecosystem that I build. And it is going out there and it is being shared, via, obviously this podcast is one, my mailing list, all that kind of thing. But one of the other things is it is being used as a asset to offer to my partners, my strategic alliance partners, my referral partners, all that kind of thing. And that is the third one. It is seeing the value of partnerships, referral networks, all that kind of thing. But the importance of having an asset in order to be able to give to somebody that you want to become a partner, right? And again, it's all in the book as well, like, and in worksheets, like how you actually go about creating these networks. This is what I've been doing. It's just that during this whole thing, I wasn't necessarily putting in the amount of time required to do that, because I hadn't got my systems in place. I hadn't got my processes. If I'm honest, I hadn't completely worked out how to restructure my entire sort of day, right? So I've documented this as well on the podcast. I have ADHD. I find it sometimes incredibly difficult when it comes to change and coming out of a structure, because unless I am completely structured into something, I can get so distracted, or I will get massive hyper focus and get lost in something, which is effectively what happened in the process of this book, right? So I kind of caught myself halfway through it, but then I actually stepped back and went, actually, I think this could be really good. I think this could help a lot of people, and it could also benefit my business. It is an experiment, so I will let you know how things go. But if nothing else, go and take a look at the book and look at it as an example of an asset, and know that depending on, like, you may well be listening or watching this podcast as a result of being introduced to the book via one of my partners, one of my previous guests on the show. Like, big part of the podcast is bringing on people that I would also not, I would like to partner with, and that have my ideal clients in their network. We don't necessarily compete. We have complementary services. So I am able to give them an asset that is valuable to their audience and given completely of, no strings attached. And when I say no strings attached, this is something that I'm doing as the experiment, because I'm not even asking for an opt-in, that whole, give me your email address, that kind of thing. I'm not even doing that. I'm leading with the value first. I'm not gating the content, because I'm removing points of friction. I want people to consume this. I want people to use it. I want people to get results with it, even if they never pay me a penny. I mean, if somebody comes back to me and says, Adam, I got your book, I read it, I used all the templates, all the resources, and these are the results I've got. It's been great. I would love that. That would be awesome to me, because I've actually done what I set out to do, and that is help people. There will be a percentage that I will hope will come and work with me at some point. But hey, look, I think that if you keep putting things out there, you add value, create assets, people start taking notice and they will come back and they will talk to you about doing business, or they refer people to you. I've got a call this afternoon, for example, as a result of this. As you know, this is a prime example. They were referred to me after being given the book by somebody else, or seeing the book and somebody was like, actually, I would really like to talk to you. And I, had a bit of a conversation and said, where did you hear me from? They said, oh, so-and-so introduced me. They said that I should read this book and blah, blah, blah. And I now want to talk to you about it. So it's actually having the impact that I first of all thought it would have. So, hey, time will tell if that's something that will work out, but it's a process. And that's the thing. Out of this whole situation, it's understanding that you never arrive at a destination. You always have to sometimes, you often have to take detours wherever you're trying to get to. You've heard me talk, maybe, if you've heard me talk before about the importance of a roadmap and understanding how you are, where you are now, where you want to get to, and then you can plan the how you're going to get to. Well, this kind of situation for me personally, it massively, it literally was, right, that road's closed. You can't get there. The train station's closed. All the trains are cancelled, all that kind of thing. It literally got to that point. And I was like, what do I do? Well, I had to go and find an alternative. And it took me longer to get there. It did. I didn't have the time. But it's understanding that it's a process. You never truly arrive at your destination, because even when you get to your destination, there's somewhere else to go afterwards, right? So that's what I really wanted to cover, really, is the importance of understanding that no matter where you are, no matter how you've been impacted, what's happened as a result of this situation, you can always effectively start again. Or you can improve on what you've been doing, because those three things: you can look at your offers and how you're fulfilling them. You can look at the assets you have in your business and the systems that power them. I mean, as I say, I thought I had my systems pretty well dialed in. I now have them dialed in, and those are now going to help improve how I can help my clients as well, with the systems and the way that basically everything gets done. And it really stops time being as much of a challenge as it has been in the past, because I've only got 3 hours in a day, or I've had only 3 hours a day. My eldest daughter starts school next week, so that is going to free things up, which is why I am massively excited about now being able to sort of use all of the things that I have been creating during all of this, and almost open the floodgates, because I'm going to have all this extra time. And hopefully I'm not just going to sit there and twiddle my thumbs because I don't know what to do with it. That's not what's going to happen, right? So the assets, the systems, and then really focusing on alliances, partnerships, referrals, those sorts of things. And those are going to be my focuses, my new, the new offers, the new ways of doing things, continually using the assets that I've created and getting them in front of more people, and using alliances and partnerships as a way to get those assets in front of more people to generate more clients. So that's where I am. That's what's happened. So as I've mentioned, go and get the book, the Conversational Relationship Marketing book. Go and read it. I've spent a lot of time in putting everything into that book. I do believe it's incredibly powerful. It's incredibly valuable. So you can go and get that at the podcast gift page, which is thinklikeafish.co.uk/podcast gift. Links in the show notes and all the rest of it if you want to go and get it. And let me know how you get on, what you think of it. I genuinely the strategies in there, the frameworks, the templates. It just will shortcut everything for a start, and it works. It's exactly now what I am what's the right way of saying this? Re-implementing into my business, because I haven't had the time necessarily to. It's not that I haven't had the time, it's that I had this fear that I didn't have the time. But now it's 30 minutes a day. Bang. It's there, right? So anyway, I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found that insightful. I'd love to hear how things have been going for you. What's changed since things have opened up? What's been going on with you for the last 6 months? Connect with me on LinkedIn, Mr. Adam King. I'll put the link underneath the show notes. But tell me what's going on. Tell me what you think of the show. Tell me, just how's business going? How are you doing? Right? because yeah, we've all been impacted by this, and yeah. Anyway, all that's left to say, as usual, is happy fishing.